What is the new home buyer's journey and what is it like to buy a house in the US market? We are talking with Mike Gerbino, a realtor from Keller Williams in New Jersey. Mike is a very active real estate professional and a veteran from the software industry. He has reinvented himself so he can use his outstanding customer service skills in the real estate industry. Thank you, Mike, for being with us today.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Mike, you must have helped a lot of new home buyers. Can you
Yes.
tell us about the home buying process and what is it like to buy a house in the US market? What should a buyer focus on while buying a new house?
Okay, that's great. So yeah, first I'd like to talk to um, the question about the buying process, Uma. So the first thing you need to do is you need to be pre-approved for a mortgage. Uh, Without that, when you make an offer, nobody's going to accept the offer. And for you, you need to know how much of a home you can afford. So a mortgage broker can really help you with that. The next thing you need to do is obviously select a real estate agent, hopefully me. Just kidding. Um, so that would be the second thing. And then your real estate agent is going to ask you questions. They're going to go over your new home wants and your needs. How many bedrooms, how many baths, what are some really wants or needs that you feel are very important to you. And then the agent is going to send you properties from a software that, for the most part, fit your criteria. Then you kind of look at the properties, you select properties that you like, that you see. They have all the pictures, some have the video tours. And then your agent will set up a viewing of the property. And after about, typically it's, I think, 7 homes, but some people, see a home, they fall in love with it. It's their dream home, and maybe they just go to 2 more and compare. And some people might want to go to 15 homes where they're really not sure. Then they're going to say to the agent, I really like this property. I'd like to make a bid. So what a bid is an offer. It's an offer to purchase the house from the seller. And you put it in what's called a contract. And it's a long document. There's so many things to sign, to initial, and you do all that. And we present the offer to the seller's people or the seller's agent. They will then look at the offer. They will come back to us and they can give us, a second chance. They could just reject our offer and take another offer. There's a few things that can happen. But let's just say the next step would be for the seller to accept our offer. So then we signed it, we sent the offer, they accepted it, they signed it, it comes back to us. Now it goes to the attorneys. Our attorney, kind of works with their attorney. Excuse me. Before that, we try to negotiate terms before we send it to the attorney and sign the contract. So we negotiate the terms, and then we try to make an offer and get it signed. So the seller accepts the contract. We get it to our attorney. The attorney reviews it. He sends a letter back to the other attorney. Now we need to do inspections, etc. So then we start the inspections. And the main things we're looking to inspect is environmental and structural problems. Unless somebody says, if there's a light bulb missing, they want it replaced. I think for those little things, it's not worth it to kind of haggle over, especially if you're a buyer. And then we resolve the issues. Before the mortgage is approved, the bank does what's called an appraisal on the house, just to make sure the value fits. And then another document called title search. It's basically that says there's no liens, there's nothing, no money owed on the house or things like that. And we do that. And then everything's good. We do a walkthrough and we do a close. So that is some of the things, some of the steps of the buying process. And then you also had a question. What are some of the things or you should focus on, that the buyer should focus on, and what is it like buying in the US? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. So I'll tackle the first one about what it's like to buy a house in the US. So right now, Umar, especially in my area, the New Jersey area, the suburbs of New Jersey, we are in what's called a seller's market. So what a seller's market is there's low inventory, or there are a low amount of sellers, and there are many buyers. We have buyers coming because of COVID from New York City. We have people that want to move out to the suburbs. We have people because the interest rates are so low, they know it's a great time to buy a house. They could save a lot of money, over 30 years on a mortgage, some 100,000 or more. So it's kind of a perfect storm for sellers because there's not too many, there's not enough of them. Low supply, high demand drives the price up. So that's what we're seeing in my area, in the suburbs of New Jersey. People are moving out of the city areas like New York and the surrounding city areas and coming out to the suburb with COVID. They want space now. And then I think you said what are some of the keys the buyer should focus on while buying a house? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so the first key is being pre-approved for a mortgage. Like I said, you cannot buy a house unless you pay for it cash. And even if you paid for it cash, you have to show proof of funds. Very very low number of people from what I've seen can buy a house cash. The seller, wants to see that you can afford the mortgage. You're approved for that, more pre-approved, so you should get that amount of money in the mortgage. And it comes in a document that we put in the offer. And as I mentioned, the buyer, it's great for the buyer because they know how much house they can afford. Why look at a house for 600,000 when your mortgage and you could afford only 400,000? So both ways benefit. And once you are approved for a mortgage, once you focus on that pre-approval, you really need to communicate with your agent. It's very important. Have an agent that you get along with, that you tell what you'd like from that agent. Like, for example, my expectations from you, Mike, are that you return my calls in an expedient fashion. You answer any difficult questions that I have within a day, or you would go to higher levels to get the answer, or you would point me to the right direction, whether it's the attorney, whether it's the mortgage person, and steer it for me. So, and then what we like to do is say, what are our expectations from you? And our expectations as a buyer's agent is for the buyer to work with us and only us. There is a paper that says that the buyer will do that. Sometimes they sign it, sometimes they don't, but we try to explain to them that we're going to be devoted to you. We're going to give you the gold treatment. So we hope that you would do the same thing, and be dedicated and only buy from us. Also, you will return our calls, when we have a question. And once your offer is accepted, the wheels go in motion pretty quick. Attorney review, you do the inspection, on the contract, and close. So those are the things we typically ask from them, and it's very important. The next thing is the buyer should understand the market conditions, and with talking to their agent and with showing data. There's all reports that can show you how many houses are available in towns. What's the average days on the market? Days on the market means, the house is up for sale for so many days. So you go over that data with your agent, and you could get an idea. Even though we're in a seller's market, you want the buyer to know that, and you want to back it up with data. So there's more documents, and buyers need to understand that because it's a seller's market, the condition of the house, is going to come into the price. The better the condition, the higher the price. And obviously square footage and things like that, bedrooms and baths. But, sometimes the buyers think they could pay X for a beautiful house when they really need to pay Y, and they could pay X only for a house that needs work. And we talked about days on the market and things like that. So have a real estate attorney, not just any attorney. Attorney is very important to the whole process. We can recommend attorneys. We don't ask you to select any. We give you, a couple names. We could recommend anyone from soup to nuts or a la carte one-offs. So does that help you?
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds like a lot to buy a new house.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of paperwork. It's a lot of signatures. It's a lot of initials. There's so many things to do now. It's a little different, I would say, which people tell me, and agents who've been doing it 30 years than back in the past because
How
of all
long,
the information we have.
yeah. How long do you think the entire process lasts? When do you think the buyer would get to move into their new house?
Yeah. So after the both parties sign the contract, it goes into attorney review. They kind of hash out, oh, um, we want the chandelier. Would you leave it? Oh, we didn't say that, but for 500 more, we'll leave it. Or I tell you what, we'll leave it. So they go back and forth with the seller's attorney and the seller's people. And then what their attorney tells us, we work with our attorney from what their attorney tells them. But once it's under contract and in that period, and it takes typically maybe 30 to 60 days because an attorney review starts the first amount of days. It really depends how long attorney review is. If we can't get kind of on the same page, and it's going to take longer for that. And also the inspection is very important because if there's problems with the house, they need to be fixed, right? So that could delay the close depending on the problem with the house and how we're going to resolve it. But I always say from 30 to, I don't know, 60 days, something within there, 45 days being an average. Could take a little longer, but
Yeah.
that's what I would say. Okay.
Yeah, it'll be exciting for a new buyer to move into the new house. I'm sure it's pretty
Absolutely.
state to be in. Well, buying a house is pretty expensive and it's a huge asset in many people's life. What are some expenses apart from the house price that a buyer should be aware of? What is the extra amount that they need to be ready to invest in while buying the house?
Sure. So that's a great question. They need to know this. So the first thing is the mortgage application, Uma. The mortgage application can be 700. It can be $1,000. Then there's the attorney fee. Let's say on the high end, it's going to be about 1,500. Then there's going to be the home inspection. The average cost of that is $650. You may want a specialist inspector to see if there's wood destroying insects throughout the garage, throughout the whole house, throughout the basement. That could be a few $100s more. You may want a survey done on the house, so you might want to pay $1,200 for that, right? You might want your own appraiser to come in, and you want to see beyond what the market is, what would the appraiser, kind of say the house is worth. You need title insurance. You need a title search. You need homeowners insurance. You should get an umbrella policy, which is a little more, that covers you a little further. So nothing touches, I don't want to get into legal personal assets, but I always advise, which I have, is a homeowner's insurance and an umbrella policy. Some areas you need flood insurance, right? There's many little fees, many fees that can go into buying a house. So without, rattling, so many off, depending on what it is, we always tell the buyer that it could be anywhere probably from 2 to 5%, but typically around, I would say 2% to 2.5%. In my experience, 3 on a high. So if a house is 400,000, if it was 2%, the closing cost would be 8,000. Does that make sense?
Yes, Mike, absolutely. Well, continuing the train of thought, thinking about the documents, what are some documents that the buyer should retain or should make sure they look at while buying the property and should maintain through their entire property life cycle? One day they could possibly sell their house. What are some documents that they should maintain in their kitty always?
Right, right. So first thing that they should maintain is their kitty is obviously all the steps. So their pre-approval letter, you want to always have that as the buyer. This was the buyer, you said, right, Uma? We're talking about
Yes, the buyer.
the contract. Not only does the contract, the contract comes tons of pages, but there's about 4 other documents that needs to be signed with that, including a lead paint document. Without getting too technical, if you'd let the agent be a dual agent where he could represent both the buyer and the selling, if it came about where if he has the seller, or if not. And there's so many documents. There's a communication information statement. So it would be good to keep all of these in a central repository, right? Then when you get the contract signed, you want to have all the papers that are signed. You want to know, when you're going to close. All the things that the lawyers work out. You might want to track email documents. There's all chains to go through, and we try to put everybody on the chain that needs to be, and including us. Let me see. So you might want to do a survey. You'd have to keep that document. Title search, you'd have to keep that document. Your application. Yeah. I mean, I could go on and on. There's so many documents. And what I found is, documents are all over the place. And, if somebody, you need a document, I try to keep them. But if you ask somebody down the road, the buyer needs them because they're going to sell or whatever, they're hard to find.
I agree. I feel like, it's always a good idea to maintain all the documents in a central location. Make a folder in your house, or have it online, maybe on your computer, or on a property tech software like HomeKasa.
Yes.
I definitely think it's very important for a property owner to maintain almost everything about their properties in a secure location.
Right. No, I agree with you. I agree with you. And looking at, we talked about your app and what your product and your service. And I tell you, you kind of hit the nail on the head, especially for buyers and sellers. They need something that could be a central repository. The time it can take to go for this document, for that document, the stress alone is, I can't find this, I can't find that. I go through it as a realtor, but yeah, I think HomeKasa is a great fit for both of them,
Yeah.
buyers and sellers.
Thank you, Mike. That was a lot of good information. Um,
Sure.
Moving on, there are so many people that you interact with while buying a house. Who
Right.
are some key people that you should always have on your contact list while buying the house and after?
Right. Well, some of them we mentioned, but I'll go over it again. And some of them we didn't mention. And so that's a great question. So your contacts obviously is your agent. You have to have it, hit the email, the phone number. Obviously, I always give the office number and my mobile. My mobile obviously more important, but I also have support in my office if for some reason I'm with buyers or sellers. If it's urgent, my office can also reach out to me, and or they could text me. So all my information. And then the mortgage person, right? There could be questions about the mortgage. You might be working with 2 mortgage people, so you want to have all their information because you might be comparing what they offer you. Um, Obviously, your attorney is very important. You need all the attorney's information, right? Inspector, so important. Inspector, right? The title people. And also, what we didn't mention is people that you might need help with if something breaks, like a plumber, a mason, a carpenter. Um, I tell you, a handyman would be the best person that I could suggest because they are very hard to find. So if you find or know a great handyman, please put that in bold somewhere, especially in HomeKasa, because for some reason in the US, everybody wants big jobs and they'll dump a big job for a small job. But some people, that's all they want to do. They do a lot of small jobs and they enjoy it. They don't want to build a house or anything like that. So, and also you want seller's agent information if necessary, which I will have when I'm the buyer. But there's just so many things you need, as you can see, and that's again more documents.
You're on point on the handyman, Mike. Even if it's a new house that you buy, I think there's so many things that could go wrong in your property. So I feel it's always a good idea to have your plumber and your handyman,
Yeah,
even your contractor per se,
right.
you have them on your contact list all the time. If something goes wrong, they are the person that you can reach out for guidance on what to do with that particular issue that you're having within your property.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
how small or how big the issue is, Uma, and obviously how small it would be even more important because sometimes you don't always run it by your attorney, your agent. Run it by them. The only foolish question is the one that's never asked, and it's better to know than not to know. Um, so I always encourage buyers, if you have any questions at any time, please run them by me. If it's a legal question, run them by the attorney. I'm not an attorney, you know, and even mortgage people try to say, well, what happens with this mortgage? Um, what's going to be my interest rate? There's so many things that go into it. Credit score. There's so many types of mortgages. I looked up the other day. I was just checking what's out there this year. There's like 15 kinds of different mortgages I found, and I don't even know a lot of them. So yeah, I hope that's what I would do.
Thank you so much, Mike, for talking to us today.
Welcome.
Your insights are really appreciated and hope it will be valuable to many new home buyers out there. For anyone who is looking to buy a new house in the New Jersey market, how can they reach you?
Yeah, so they could my name obviously is Mike Gerbino. G is in good, ER, B is in business, INO. My mobile is 973-951-1099. And my email is mgerbinorealestate@gmail.com. And I'd be happy to help them. No strings attached. I'll be happy to answer any questions. And I have a great team behind me that can help me. If I don't know the answer to the question, I do my best to get the answer to the question. Okay.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for your time
You're
today.
welcome. My pleasure.